Hello warriors, how you doing? Welcome to another episode of Fitness Advice You're Not Going to Take Anyways. Before we get to it, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so that you never miss an episode. And head on over to our Instagram and follow us for fun reels and tutorials as well. This week we're talking about your posture and postural deviations. So, what is postural deviations? Do you know what a postural deviation is?
I'm assuming it is deviations from a healthy posture. No, it's things that you sort of train yourself to do, whether it's slouching or sitting looking down or leaning to one side, anything that's going to cause you to not be in proper alignment, which is going to cause issues later, especially when it comes to working out.
So, very close. Postural deviation is actually described as different mechanics that deviate from what the norm would actually be for your skeletal system. So there are 5 different types of postural deviations. Do you know what those are?
No, tell us.
So obviously there's a healthy posture. And a healthy posture is somebody whose shoulders stand up, roll down and back. The hips aren't sticking out in what I like to call Instagram girl booty or IG booty, right? You've seen this, I'm sure. Oh, that one's terrible. It causes lots of back pain, but we'll get there, right? Amongst other things. One thing I really like to emphasize with my clients with a healthy posture is especially ladies, they think that their chest being out like this is where you're supposed to be. However, the chest is actually lifted as the shoulders roll down and back. So we're not pinching our shoulder blades together. That would be a postural deviation.
Yeah, and this does apply to guys as well. You know, they think you literally the chest puffed out. Like, no, if you
The
just
rooster.
stand, yeah, exactly, the rooster. Just don't do that.
Don't do that. It's bad for every spine. I don't care who you are.
If you have a spine, this applies to you.
Kyphotic posture, kyphosis. I don't like this posture. It's where the shoulders slouch forward and you get this roll, right? And it makes you look kind of slouchy and lazy. And now if I lift my shirt, you're going to see that my low abs actually stick out. You got no core activation because everything in your hips just kind of went, I'm on vacation, right?
Yeah.
So it creates a lot of areas, deactivation, pressure. You can, I cannot emphasize enough that if you do not have a strong spine, that you can slip a disc, you can pinch nerves, you can fuse discs together, right?
You're going to get a lot of upper back pain doing that.
Well, there's no structure to actually hold everything in place. Bones are solid and muscle is only solid when it's wrapped and has lots of fibers, right? Kind of like your hair.
True facts.
True facts. So, this posture often happens when we're older, right? And I think I recall your lady mentioning that she was excited to be an old lady hunched over, right? And we've seen those little ladies. I actually have a client her granny was a little agricultural lady, and she was a farmer, and she said, yep, she was strong as heck, and yes, you could be, but her posture was completely leaned over, and so she was probably a good 4 inches shorter than she should have been, just because the chest tightens, the spine elongates, and when you start elongating and stretching out your ligaments and your tendons, they're not like your muscles, they don't go back. And if you go too far, like snapping an Achilles tendon because you've run improperly, right? You have to have surgery for that. You lose mobility, you lose all kinds of range of motion that you need. And it doesn't matter which area of the body it's in. It could be in your back still, and then suddenly you can't twist, you can't lift things, you have restrictions.
Yeah, it's not necessarily like rehabbing a muscle group when it comes to your tendons. If you need them shortened, you basically have to have surgery.
Yes, if you need them shortened, you basically have to have surgery. My brother's youngest daughter is going to have to do this because she's got Ehlers-Danlos syndrome so badly that her tendons are actually too long compared to her muscles, and so she experiences pain constantly. When she gets older, she will end up in a wheelchair for a little while until she's allowed to have the surgery from hitting puberty and everything so her body can heal. Outside of that, has been wearing leg braces for that exact issue since she was like 2 or 3 years old. And she's 8 now, I think.
Now, for those who aren't born with or living with a disorder that causes it, what are some ways to help prevent that sort of thing?
Don't lock your knees. That's a really big one. Do not lock your knees. I see this a lot, and what locking your knees does, so if I lock my knees and turn to the side, you're going to notice immediately my butt just went way behind me. And this also restricts your blood flow as well. So we want to make sure the knees are soft. Soft knees protect joints, which is good. We want your synovial sac to stay nice and protecting your joint, right, and lubrication. Otherwise, you're just pushing all of that, squishing that, and you are elongating those tendons and ligaments behind the knee, which is very, very bad. This causes low back pain and pain all the way up the spine eventually, as well as stomach issues, right? Because your posture, if your posture is off, then your skeletal system's off. When I started chiropractic therapy with mine about 6 years ago, I had hips that were 1.5 inches off, and so it would make me stand this way, and I was kyphotic. So I had very terrible bowel movements, believe it or not. I couldn't have a full bowel movement, so it absolutely, your posture affects so much more than we realize. It can also affect the way your hormones are producing because you're not digesting properly. If your organs are squished versus being able to stand tall, right? Flat back is our next one. Flat back is where the spine loses its natural curve. So if you've ever seen anybody who walks like this, right? And they have this angle, that is a flat back because they no longer have that support in the hips. And the problem with this is this could lead to degenerative disc disease or issues. It can also lead to compound fractures in the discs. And then, go ahead and say it for me. You said it earlier.
Ankylosing spinalitis.
Thank you. So that one actually can cause a lot of issues in the hips, especially in this area of the low abs and below, and that's where you get a lot of that low back pain from having a flat back. We're going to go over ways of how you can actually strengthen your back so none of this happens, or if you're experiencing it, hopefully this will lessen it over time, right? So our next postural deviation is called a sway back, or what I like to refer to as Instagirl booty.
Not a dance move.
Not a dance move. It might be though one day. I can't twerk, so I don't know how to do that. But
nobody should.
This is literally where you see the hips and glutes are sticking out away from the body, and you get this excessive pelvic tilt away from you.
Now, why is this bad?
This is really bad because this does put a lot of pressure on the low back, specifically here. We don't want this because that is part of where your nervous system meets. Imagine all of your discs suddenly just like scrunching together. You're going to experience literal electricity running through your veins and your muscles that are trying to fire. You might get pains. I have had clients who have lordosis or sway back. The problem with this is lordosis can actually create sciatica. Sciatica is where you feel that pain, that sudden sharp pain in your low back, and sometimes that can even run all the way down your glute into your heel. If you're experiencing this, we need to strengthen your core. And your core is not just your front, but it's also your back. A lot of the time when you get that lordosis, the low back is very, very tight from being pushed away. That means your hip flexors are also tight, and your hamstrings and glutes have deactivated. So there's no activation there to hold you the way you should be actively contracted throughout the day, right?
Mm-hmm. And on a similar note, as far as the core not just being the front, it just hammering that point home, I don't think a lot of people pay attention to, obviously everyone's like, oh, abs, that's your core.
Yes.
What about all of the side
Yeah.
between the rib and the pelvis. Like there's a whole sheet of muscle there.
There's several muscles actually. You still have your serratus anterior, you've got your obliques as well. And the problem with those two muscles is people tend to do side bends with them, and this doesn't really work that muscle that way because our obliques do not run up and down, they run diagonally. So twists, Russian twists, swings to the sides, right? The wood chop motion, those will help to make the sides of your core a lot stronger. That is something that is very overlooked. I think that's a great point. Another thing that lordosis could also potentially lead to, especially the ladies, is osteoporosis. If you are not working out and weightlifting, your bones are in fact deteriorating on the inside. It is just science. If you don't move, you fall apart, right? And that goes straight into the marrow of your bones. So weightlifting is going to also prevent osteoporosis from setting in as well, which is really, really good. You're not going to get as much upper back pain from your chest just constantly being pushed forward like I was talking about in the beginning, with that pinching of the shoulder blades together versus just a good scapular retraction, right? Makes a big difference. And again, the stomach comes forward, so you're going to get poor digestion, right? Probably poor bowel movements. Your BMs are going to be painful. They could even turn out like small little rabbit poops. I've heard this a lot of times from the patients that my chiropractor has that I end up talking to when I go in. Oh, I have the same problem. Oh, well, keep coming here and then come see me because we can fix both, right? Makes a difference to have good, healthy posture.
It does.
It does. All right.
Do you want me to introduce this one?
You can introduce this one.
Okay. Next one we're going to talk about is tech neck. Now for those of you that are addicted to your screens or work from home or spend a lot of time on a computer, this is where you've got that hardcore lean forward, you're starting to get that curve on the back of the neck, probably getting a lot of tight shoulders and headaches maybe?
Yes. I also like to refer to some of it as jutting chin. That happens a lot when people are doing a push-up and they come down and they go here and then they'll push their chin forward, right? So this is a constant this or a constant this. And one of my favorite art depictions of our generation, unfortunately, and the one following us, is a kid who's got a cell phone in front of his face and his whole back is just like this, and Pikachu is riding him while he's on his phone. Oh, we are slaves to it, aren't we? Terrible. But it literally encompasses that posture of tech neck. The whole back just right here all the time. So this creates, again, that elongated posture in the back, really, really tight chest. Also, your head is heavy. The more forward that it is for every single inch, you can add on 10 pounds. That's a lot. So your body's constantly trying to fight that of it being out here when it should be all the way back here.
Yeah.
So I tell my clients you want to be stacked.
If you want to have a good idea of the stress that's putting on your neck, grab a 10-pound weight and just hold it out.
Yes.
That's your neck.
Not even a 10-pound weight. Grab a glass of water and hold it in front of you for 10 minutes. Same thing. The glass of water does not weigh 8 ounces or 12 ounces or 16 ounces. It weighs however much you've been holding it there for, right? Because gravity's setting in and suddenly you're going, holy shit, that 8-ounce glass of water actually feels like 20 pounds. Your head's doing the same thing to your body throughout the entire day though. So if your back is not strong enough to support that kind of weight in front of you, what's going to happen? Oof, all kinds of disc issues.
Exactly. It's important to note that a lot of people seem to think that the back is like the arm of a crane.
Yeah.
It's not. Your back is not a crane. If you try to lever it like that, you are gonna hurt yourself because it's not meant to do that.
No, it's meant to brace. It's not meant to extend and hold. You know, feet and away from your body. That's why we have core bracing, and that's why those movements are quick to be able to handle daily functions, such as if you suddenly lean over and reach out to pick something up, right? You'll be able to handle that. But if you have to sit there and hold that weight, your body's going to have trouble holding that weight. And it's just a fact. it doesn't matter how much you've worked out or how strong you are. You can lift cars and you're still going to have that same issue if your head's constantly forward. It's a lot of weight pulling on the muscles, the spine, and the tendons. We don't want that.
We don't want that.
Don't want that. There goes those hippie shoes again, the tight chest. With this one, I've actually often found a lot of people have breathing issues with a tight chest because everything's forward, right? So everything's compressed. So imagine what your neck is also doing if you're here. So your spine is supposed to be an S, a slight S, right? Boom, boom. And if it's not doing what it's supposed to, you're not going to be able to breathe. Again, when I began chiropractic care, mine was negative 27 degrees pushing into my windpipe. I thought I had asthma my whole life. Turns out my spine was trying to kill me. So, not fun.
Think of it like your organs are eggs in a carton, and your posture is the carton. If you bend the carton, you're going to crush the eggs.
Yep. And if your carton is strong enough for falls, nothing's going to break, nothing will get punctured, nothing will crack, right? That's a really good analogy. I like that one. That is good. So I like to tell my clients that if you turn to the side, everything should be stacked, right? So if you look at me from the side, my shoulders are stacked over my hips, which are stacked over my knees, which are also stacked over my ankles. And that puts my head right over the center where it should be, right? So that's a healthy posture. You want everything nice and aligned. And that's what it needs to be, the norm, is aligned. All right, so how do we fix that? There are a lot of ways that we can fix that. You want to jump in with a few?
I do. There's exercise, just in general.
Oh, yes.
Yoga, obviously, flexibility, it helps with a lot of different things, which we'll touch on in a moment, and then also, oddly enough, massage.
Yeah.
You might not think of it, but working the muscle, making sure that tight spots are worked out, also, it's sort of that. Also, massage. It might not be something that occurs to you right away, but it's kind of like a slower, more kneading version of yoga. You're going to work out some tight spots, you're going to stretch out the muscle, help it relax, and doing all those things in concert, really good for you. But there's also a few other things.
Yeah, so in regards to exercise specifically moving our body under weight. And that's because our bone density will in fact increase. So stronger bones, a lot more muscle fiber is going to grow to actually support the structures that are our skeletal system, right? Because in between our discs of our spine is just a little jelly pad. Without anything around that, think of your muscles like bubble wrap. If the bubble wrap integrity is deflated and it's not filled with air the way it should be, right, the package can be destroyed. It can be damaged, it can break. So we should think of our bodies as a package. Muscle is really the packing peanuts, right? The packing peanuts, the styrofoam, how fun. So we want to move weight with our bodies, increase that output force, one of the reasons that yoga is so great is because you have a thin layer of tissue over your muscle called the fascia. As you move through a particular range of motion during yoga, and it's not just sitting still in a pose, you can do it in a flow, which is actually better for you because you increase that range of motion, you unlock that fascia as you move through that range of motion, which not only releases vitamins and minerals that are locked in there to the muscle itself, but it's also, like you said, going to release adhesions in the muscle, which is just knots. Places that feel real tender when you poke them or roll over them with a roller, and you go, whoo, I felt that. Let that hold. What needs to happen is the Golgi tendon organ, the GTO, needs to sit there and talk to the muscle spindle and say, hey man, chill out, so that they can just relax. Otherwise, you're gonna stay tense, and you have to breathe through it. The other reason that massage helps so much is blood flow. You're increasing your oxygen intake, output, and your blood flow as well, because if you have adhesions all over your body and the knots all over your muscles, right, you are restricting your blood flow, which is actually restricting your nutrients that are allowed to flow into your muscles and through your bloodstream and into your organs to keep them healthy. So we want to always make sure that we're doing a little bit of everything. Same reason that flexibility training helps. You're moving through that range of motion to unlock the fascia and make sure that your body is moving in a healthy manner and keeping that collagen and elasticity in the muscle, in joints, in your tendons and your ligaments, right? So that they stay healthy and they're not constantly overstretching.
And the key there is movement. There's nothing wrong with meditation, but meditation is not the same as yoga. Yoga is movement. It is an exercise.
Mm-hmm. And you don't always have to hold that pose for 60 seconds. Well, it's very beneficial because this allows the body to either activate more muscle fibers or relax more muscle fibers depending on what you're doing and how far you're stretching into that range of motion. So one of the reasons chiropractic care helps so much is you're realigning the skeletal system, and it does in fact work. I love the people who are like, that's just witchcraft and hooey. I'm walking proof that this actually works, and I have wonderful x-rays showing that if you couple chiropractic care with weightlifting and exercise, some kind of weight-bearing movement, that your spine will get stronger, it will straighten, and you will in fact get better, healthier posture over time. But if you notice, there's a common theme to all of these. You have to put in the work. That's the most important thing. So if you start noticing these postural deviations, try a little yoga, take baby steps. Nobody's asking you to jump in the deep waters, right? Do a little weightlifting once a week. Do what you know. Follow people online that you know are giving out good information, that use good, proper form, right? There are ways that we can do things on our own without spending too much money and time. And it only takes 20 minutes a day. That's it. 20 minutes a day. I know you've got 20 minutes a day because you're sitting here watching this video.
True facts.
So, if you guys have an episode topic that you would like us to cover in the future, please leave it in the comments. Send us a direct message on Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.
And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yes.